Hello, my sweet summer children. Today we are going to be talking about the one, the only Jaime Lannister.
There are no men like me. Only me.
Jaime Lannister is one of the most universally unliked characters in A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones as well. I will say, like, more people like him now than they used to, but if you've been here for a while, you know Jaime Lannister is one of my favorite characters in the entire book series. And you know I love me some Nickelodeon, Costco, Walmart. So I have not said a peep about Jaime since season 8, since the end of Game of Thrones, because my breakdown right after the episode, like, I completely lost it. So Jaime Lannister is known throughout Westeros as the Kingslayer.
What a king he was.
He's the villain that wants to be a hero. I totally believe Jaime's arc is one of redemption. I think he's always been on this path of redemption. In order to redeem yourself, you have to start out in the worst place ever, which is pushing a kid out the window. So ever since season 4, season 5, Jaime's story started to like go off the rails, and ultimately the redemption didn't happen, and he ran back to Cersei to get killed by rocks. So how does this happen? How did we get here? Is it canon? We're gonna talk about it. To be completely honest, Jaime might not make it out of the Winds of Winter. I, of course, don't want that to happen, but let's look at it. In the books right now, he's in a pretty tough predicament. So we know that George R.R. Martin wanted HBO Game of Thrones to include resurrected Catelyn Stark, Lady Stoneheart. She's vengeful, she's dark, she's hateful, and she's killing everybody that was involved in the Red Wedding that she can get her hands on. So he fought with D&D about it, and he talked about it in an interview, but they didn't include Lady Stoneheart. Now, because of this, you get what's called the butterfly effect. These small changes that cause huge ripples in the story that's being told. Huge holes. And Jaime's story isn't exactly what it's supposed to be, because in the books where we last left off, Jaime is being led by Brienne of Tarth into the hands of undead Catelyn Stark, Lady Stoneheart. And that's the last we hear from him. So in season 5 of Game of Thrones, Jaime has this whole quest to Dorne with Bronn to bring Myrcella home.
When you were whole, it would have been a good fight.
And then in season 6, they do this rendition of Jaime's Riverland storyline from A Feast for Crows, but like, not really.
Only Cersei. And if I have to slaughter every Tully who ever lived to get back to her, that's what I'll do.
And there's more Bronn in Jaime. Bronn is with Jaime like all the time, and it's just not a thing at all in the books. In the books, Bronn is in a castle, his castle, Castle Stokeworth, with Lollys and his stepson Tyrion chilling. So they do this thing where Jaime is still in love with Cersei, and he threatens Edmure Tully, the Lord of Riverrun. It's so out of character compared to book Jaime. So the Feast for Crows Jaime. So the easiest way to follow this is to work backwards and try to see what's in store for Jaime in the Winds of Winter. So Jaime gives Brienne Oathkeeper and tells her to go find Lady Sansa and protect her with it. He also gives Brienne Podrick and gold and a letter with King Tommen seal saying she's on the king's business. Tywin dies. This leaves Cersei pretty much fucked because she wants Jaime to be hand and he doesn't want to be hand. Kevin Lannister won't do it either, but Jaime is consistently giving Cersei good advice, and she constantly ignores him and belittles him. But anyway, Cersei sends Jaime off to the Riverlands to end the siege of Riverrun and to solidify the Lannisters' hold on the realm. Cersei wants the hostages from Harrenhal, she wants Riverrun, Edmure, and the Blackfish, so Cersei has been opening them legs for Lancel, the Kettlebacks, and Moonboy, and Tyrion told Jaime this. At first, Jaime just obsesses about it, but doesn't really believe it. But then Lancel confirms it for him. So while Jaime is in the Riverlands, he goes to Harrenhal, releases all the prisoners, including Willis Manderly, the son of Wyman Manderly. So Jaime tries to talk to the Blackfish, Brynden Tully, to get him to surrender. Brynden Tully is Catelyn Stark's uncle. But the Blackfish doesn't surrender, so he sends Edmure to surrender. But the Blackfish doesn't die. The Blackfish swims away under the gate, and Jaime sends Edmure to Casterly Rock. Now, while Jaime is at River Run, Cersei sends a letter, and the letter says, "Come at once," she said. "Help me, save me. I need you now as I have never needed you before. I love you, I love you, I love you. Come at once." Jaime doesn't respond to this letter, and not only does he not respond to it, he burns it. He is done being Cersei's whipping boy. He is done doing Cersei's bidding. In Dance, Jaime goes to Raventree Hall, continuing his Riverland political shit, and then on his way back to the River Run, he camps at Pennytree Hall outside the gates and gets a surprise visitor, Brienne of Tarth. Brienne tells Jaime that she's found Sansa, the Hound has her, and he must go with her, but alone or the Hound will kill her. Brienne is taking him to Lady Stoneheart's cave. Lady Stoneheart and the Brotherhood Without Banners captured wounded Brienne and Podrick. A trestle table had been set up across the cave in a cleft in the rock. Behind it sat a woman, all in gray, cloaked and hooded. In her hands was a crown, a bronze circlet ringed by iron swords. She was studying it, her fingers stroking the blades as if to test the sharpness. Her eyes glimmered under her hood. Gray was the color of the Silent Sisters, the handmaidens of the stranger. Brienne felt a shiver climb her spine. Stoneheart. So Brienne comes face to face with Stoneheart, resurrected Catelyn Stark, and all Catelyn Stark sees in Brienne is a traitor. She is carrying a Lannister sword. Lady Stark wants Brienne to bring Jaime to her, and Brienne is vouching for Jaime Lannister. What does she want of me? She wants her son alive or the men who killed him dead. She wants to feed the crows like they did at the Red Wedding. Freys and Boltons, aye. We'll give her those, as many as she likes. All she asks from you is Jaime Lannister. Jaime, the name was like a knife twisting in her belly. Lady Catelyn, you don't understand. Jaime, he saved me from being raped when the Bloody Mummers took us, and later he came back for me. He leapt into the bear pit empty-handed. I swear to you, he is not the man he was. He sent me after Sansa to keep her safe. He could not have had a part in the Red Wedding. Brienne refuses to kill Jaime or bring Jaime there, and she is hung, and Podrick is hung as well. But before she dies and Podrick dies, she agrees to bring Jaime. And she went and got him, and he has trusted her and is following her right into Stoneheart's cave. Now, does Jaime make it out of Stoneheart's cave? And if so, how? Or will he die there? So there is some foreshadowing from A Storm of Swords, Jaime's Weirwood dream. So in season 8 of Game of Thrones, Jaime was killed in the cavernous dungeons of the Red Keep by a stone. So was this some kind of clever jab at Jaime being killed by Lady Stoneheart? Probably not.
They kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet and...
But to be quite honest, he actually might be killed by Lady Stoneheart. Like, let's look at this Weirwood dream. We know that this dream is prophetic. It's been proven to be prophetic. Parts of it have already came true. I'm not going to go over the whole dream piece by piece because it is lengthy and we don't want this video to be hours long. But let's go over some parts of it. Below the earth, his doom awaited. He knew with the certainty of dream. Something dark and terrible lurked there. Something that wanted him. So could that something dark and terrible be Lady Stoneheart, who lives below the earth in a cave? Maybe. I have thought that Jaime would fight the others side by side with Brienne, fight the dead. But maybe the dead that he's gonna fight is Lady Stoneheart. So near the end of the dream, Jaime is confronted by Rhaegar and the Kingsguard. Brienne touched his arm. There are more. He saw them too. They were armored all in snow. It seemed to him, and ribbons of mist swirled back from their shoulders. The visors of their helms were closed, but Jaime Lannister did not need to look upon their faces to know them. 5 had been his brothers. Oswell Went and John Derry, Lewin Martell, a Prince of Dorne, the White Bull, Gerald Hightower, Sir Arthur Dane, Sword of the Morning, and beside them, crowned in mist and grief, with his long hair streaming behind him, rode Rhaegar Targaryen, Prince of Dragonstone and rightful heir to the Iron Throne. "You don't frighten me," he called, turning as they split to either side of him. He did not know which way to face. "I will fight you one by one or all together, but who is there for the wench to duel? She gets cross when you leave her out." "I swore an oath to keep him safe," Brienne said to Rhaegar's shade. "I swore a holy oath." "We all swore oaths," said Sir Arthur Dane, so sadly. The shades dismounted from their ghostly horses. When they drew their long swords, it made not a sound. "He was going to burn the city," Jaime said, "to leave Robert only ashes." "He was your king," said Derry. "You swore to keep him safe," said Went. "And the children, them as well," said Prince Lewin. Prince Rhaegar burned with a cold light, now white, now red, now dark. "I left my wife and children in your hands. I never thought he'd hurt them." Jaime's sword was burning less brightly now. "I was with the king, killing the king," said Sir Arthur. "Cutting his throat," said Prince Lewin. "The king you had sworn to die for," said the White Bull. The fires that ran along the blades were guttering out, and Jaime remembered what Cersei had said. "No." Terror closed the hand about his throat. Then his sword went dark, and only Brienne's burned as the ghosts came rushing in. So there are many different ways to interpret this dream, but in relation to where Jaime is right now in the books, Rhaegar could definitely represent Catelyn Stark. I know, right? How?
"You have forsaken every vow you ever took."
Well, Jaime swore an oath to House Targaryen to guard the king, and the oath extends to Rhaegar and his children. And Jaime didn't keep his oath, and Rhaegar has appeared to him very upset about his children and about Jaime not keeping this oath. Although it's a very complex situation, it's a very gray situation, it doesn't matter.
By what right does the wolf judge the lion?
Now with Catelyn, Jaime swore an oath to her that he would return her daughters, keep them safe, and he would never take up arms against her and House Stark again. And no matter that he has kept his oath, and it is a very complex and gray situation, it also won't matter. It won't matter to Catelyn Stark, because she won't believe him. Also, Rhaegar appears in Jaime's weirwood dream with the Kingsguard. Lady Stoneheart will appear to Jaime in real life with her own type of Kingsguard, like she is surrounded by the Brotherhood without banners. So this dream could totally mean that Jaime Lannister will die at the hands of Catelyn Stark for crimes he didn't commit. But does Catelyn want to kill Jaime? Or does she want to do something else with him? Or if she wants to kill him, is there any way he can get out of this certain doom?
Who wants to die defending a Lannister?
Well, maybe. There are a few things that Jaime has on his side. He has indeed kept his oath to Lady Catelyn, but coincidentally, he left some things out when he was speaking with the Blackfish. So in the Weirwood dream that Jaime has, the Weirwood dream before he encounters Rhaegar, he encounters Ned Stark. He remembered Eddard Stark riding the length of Aerys's throne room, wrapped in silence. Only his eyes had spoken, a lord's eyes, cold and gray and full of judgment. "Is it you, Stark?" Jaime called. "Come ahead. I never feared you living. I do not fear you dead." I think this is very interesting because at the Siege of Riverrun, Jaime treats with the Blackfish, Catelyn's uncle, who has escaped and could very well end up with his sister. And he knows about the promises that Jaime made Catelyn. And Jaime and the Blackfish talked about it. And Jaime didn't take the opportunity to tell him all he had done, because the judgment on the Blackfish's face reminded him of Ned Stark. "I had no hand in Lady Catelyn's death," he might have said, "and her daughters were gone before I reached King's Landing." It was on his tongue to speak of Brienne and the sword he'd given her, But the Blackfish was looking at him the way that Eddard Stark had looked at him when he'd found him on the Iron Throne with the Mad King's blood upon his blade. I came to speak of the living, not the dead, of those who need not die, but shall. Coincidence or not, I mean, it's a total recall of his Weirwood dream. He relates the Blackfish to Ned Stark, and he relates the Blackfish's judgment to Ned Stark. And before Jaime faces off with Rhaegar, which would be Catelyn, he faces off with the Ned, which would be the Blackfish, and Jaime is facing off with the Blackfish right here. So the Blackfish challenges Jaime to a duel. That would have been a sweet fight once, Jaime thought. Fine fodder for the singers. When Lady Catelyn freed me, she made me swear not to take arms again against the Starks or Tullys. But Jaime tells the Blackfish, "Free me from my vow to Lady Catelyn, and I will meet you sword to sword. If I win, River Run is ours. If you slay me, we'll lift the siege." Sir Brendan laughed again. "Much as I would welcome the chance to take that golden sword away from you and cut out your black heart, your promises are worthless. I would gain nothing from your death but the pleasure of killing you, and I will not risk my own life for that, as small as a risk that may be." So the Blackfish does at least know that Jaime is still holding the vow, and he also knows that Jaime had no part in the Red Wedding, and he could speak as much to that, but not much else. But maybe there is someone else. The Brotherhood Without Banners has a spy in Riverrun, Tommo Sevens, the singer, the bard of the Brotherhood Without Banners. So Jaime takes Tommo Sevens with him to take Edmure down off the gallows and talk to him. He basically ends up threatening to launch Edmure's baby into Riverrun if he doesn't go along with the plan that Jaime has. And he has Tommo Sevens play Jaime the Reigns of Castamere for Edmure, basically to intimidate him. So Jaime actually takes Edmure as a hostage, and he's gonna let Edmure, Rosalind, and their baby live together at Casterly Rock as like some glorified hostages, in the same way that Theon lived at Winterfell, basically. A comfortable hostage. So maybe Tommo Sevens can vouch for him. But a lot of what Tommo Sevens overhears is pretty bad on Jaime's part. Maybe Edmure himself could vouch for Jaime, but I highly doubt it. Edmure's last words to Jaime were, "This was my father's solar," said Tully. "He ruled the Riverlands from here wisely and well. He liked to sit beside the window. The light was good there. Whenever he looked up from his work, he could see the river. When his eyes were tired, he would have Cat read to him. Littlefinger and I built a castle out of wooden blocks once, there beside the door. You will never know how sick it makes me to see you in this room, Kingslayer. You will never know how much I despise you." So I doubt that Edmure is going to be sticking up for Jaime. So Jaime managed to take Riverrun without bloodshed, and he was able to keep his oath to Catelyn about not taking arms against her family, but he still has taken her childhood home. If she wants to kill him, she's going to kill him. But it all might circle back to what Lady Stoneheart wants. She wants her son alive, or the men who killed him dead. Lady Stoneheart does not know that Bran and Rickon are alive. She does not know that Sansa and Arya are alive. But it just so happens the cave, Lady Stoneheart's cave, is a Weirwood cave, and it's all connected to the old gods. And Lady Stoneheart's favorite son, Bran, is in the north training to be a Greenseer, and it is very likely that if Jaime is needed to fight the others, that Bran will save his life by reaching his mother. Or maybe Brienne just changes her mind altogether and they don't go to the cave. Maybe they go and they fight their way out together. Maybe Catelyn doesn't want to kill Jaime. Maybe she wants to use him for some greater purpose regarding her children, regarding Cersei, regarding Riverrun. If Catelyn Stark kills Jaime Lannister, I'm not gonna lie, I'll be upset, but it's better than sleeping with Brienne and then running back to Cersei to get killed by rocks. Jaime dying by the hands of Lady Stoneheart would be unjust and tragic because Jaime has kept his word. Jaime has redeemed himself. His entire A Feast for Crows storyline is about finding himself and becoming a better Jaime. Jaime's death It may be a sacrificial death. Brienne will finally understand what Jaime meant when he said,
Many vows. They make you swear and swear.
It would indeed be a poetic death, but I really hope that Jaime fights the White Walkers and goes out in a blaze of glory. Goes out a hero. That hero that he always wanted to be. I know that there are theories that Jaime is the Valonqar and Jaime's gonna kill Cersei. I never thought Jaime strangling his sister and former lover would make him a hero, but for any of this to happen, for any of that Valonqar theories, Jaime fighting the others, any of that kind of stuff to happen, Jaime has to get past Lady Stoneheart. How does he do it? What do you think is in the cards for Jaime Lannister in the Winds of Winter? As always, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please click that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and join the Sweet Summer family. Okay, my sweet summer children, have a good day.